On. Can you hear me? Good, good. Thank you. I think it's privileged to be part of this panel, and it's about upskilling and reskilling, which is critical. So if you look at the context in the Industry Revolution 4.0, the word SMAC, which is Social Mobility Cloud Analytics, alongside artificial intelligence, chatbots, robotics, deep learning, machine learning, was already taking center stage. But what happened post-COVID, it changed the rules of the game. The entire learning ecosystem, architecture and landscape underwent a massive shift. And digitalization, which was more of a luxury at some point in time, while some companies were adopting it, became a necessity. And organizations were compelled to rethink their learning ecosystem and strategies. And as Toffler says, illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot unlearn, learn and relearn. That has created a context. So in this massive shift, if we look at it, EdTech has taken a center stage. Hybrid models has come in. Instead of MOOCs, we have started talking about MOOCs, which is massive open online short engagements. So with this context, I will suggest Gopalji to talk about some of the data around it and share his views, and then we'll move around the circle. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Raj. Just a few data points to set the stage for why is there a crying need for reskilling and upskilling. So, 2021 data, what that brought home to me is just three things. 27% of India's urban population has 11 years of education and no more. When you look at India's rural areas, that drops to 5.8%. On the other side, if this is what is happening in the education sector, the traditional education sector, if you look at India's organizations, only 16% of them have skill development programs. And that too is largely focused on technical skills and not cognitive skills. So that's one way of looking at the gap. The other way of looking at the gap is if you look at the 2023 Global Skill Gap Survey. Yes, it's a global survey, but I'll give you data points only relating to our country. As per that survey, 92% of Indian organizations feel that yes, there is a skill gap in the country. 82% of respondents from India to that survey, they have said that their college education has not prepared them for the roles in the job market. Another 82% of respondents have said that their current roles will get impacted by AI and automation, and hence they need to reskill. So this hopefully has brought home to you what is that gap we are talking about between education and the requirements of the current job market and the future workforce, and hence the need for skilling and upskilling.
Mussarat Sahab, why don't you share your thoughts about this upskilling, reskilling and future of work?
Yeah, thank you, Raj. And thank you, Gopalji, for setting the context. See, I come from an automotive sector, and this is one sector where maximum disruption is happening. So today, you are seeing that, in terms of the gasoline cars that you are seeing, now you are talking about electric vehicle, you are talking about hydrogen, alternative fuel, and there is so much of disruption that you are talking about autonomous car, driverless car. So much of change is happening in this sector. That is one part. But the second is when we are talking about future of work. So future of work has been actually accelerated in the sense that if you look at World Economic Forum report, it talks about that what kind of change is happening in the work, the worker and workplace. All three are getting redefined. So we have to be prepared. So for example, when we are talking about work, so we had seen automation, robotics already there. You know, in automotive company, we are already ahead of Industry 4.0. And that is the reason that, you know, the extreme automation that we are able to roll out a car every 12 seconds. So you can imagine the level of efficiency which is there. But that is not enough. The world is changing very fast. Today, we are not only talking about robotics, but cobotics, you know, human-machine interference, IoT, connected, and, you know, all kind of technology you talk about, it is creating a big change. You talk about additive technologies. So the work itself is changing. Now, when we are talking about the worker or human being or human resource, which is going to come to the workplace, that itself is getting redefined. The concept of full-time employee is going to blur very, very soon. So we will have gig economy which is coming up, and you know, very different kind of workforce. The Gen Z which is coming is totally different. So in the next 5-10 years, it will get totally redefined. And when we talk about workplace, we never thought that even in manufacturing, we can do hybrid working. So those are the kind of changes which is happened, and there are offices in all over the world which doesn't exist. It's a complete virtual office. So imagine what kind of skill, what kind of capabilities you need to manage that kind of workplace. So that is one. And secondly, when I am talking about my sector per se, which is automotive, the disruption that we are seeing is phenomenal. Today we, you know, skill people on certain machine, equipment, technology. Tomorrow it is changed. So what is required is not only upskilling, reskilling, unlearning. All this is important when we are talking about hard skills, right? But it is not only the hard skill. We have soft skills also, or cognitive skills. When we are talking about the way we have to manage people itself, the leadership skills are changing. So the competencies which are required, which was required 10 years back and today and 10 years down the line, there will be different set of skill set or competencies required by leaders and managers to handle that kind of generation, that kind of technology. So this is what comes to my mind. I'll share something later also.
Thank you. I think this gig and this technological adaptation, if I look at it from Twitter or Netflix took roughly 3.5 years to get 1 million users. Twitter took 2 years, Facebook 8 months, then Instagram just took 2.5 months, and chatbots, believe it or not, just 5 days. So there's a massive adaptation, massive shift in technology, and the work, the way we work. So in this context, Preeti, would you like to share your thoughts about particularly focus on telecom industry?
No, it's off.
Okay, so I think we come from an industry which has been ever changing. It's like an ICT, right? So we are talking about all fancy technologies, right, from a 2G to a 5G now. We'll soon start speaking about a 6G very, very soon. But that's like the high end of the spectrum. But if I look at the telco industry as a whole, as what Gopalji said and other people also are adding on to it, I think there is a requirement which the industry has altogether, right from a skilled, a semi-skilled, because there's a huge workforce that we have at Airtel too. While I may have about more than 1 lakh employees, I also have a huge 3 lakh employee base on the field as well. What we really require is one, the hard skills definitely, because that will really help you get the right employment and to sustain in this very competitive industry environment. Second is also you have to upgrade yourself very, very quickly. The Gs are changing very, very fast. and hence you really need to be updated on the tech side, what's happening. But the third piece, which is the most important, is the mindset of people. We interact with a lot of youngsters, with a lot of people who are wanting to change jobs. I think if you have the right mindset, ready to change, adapt, and embrace that change, is where you start from. The second definitely is, I think the soft skills are very, very important. We work on a lot of skills, like we're currently working on some skill centers. We are reaching out to the academia on how together we can build up skill centers where we can give what we require at the end of the day, and the academia can start imparting that kind of an education and knowledge to youngsters. I think it is all together as an ecosystem, we'll all have to work together so that we can give our youngsters better skills, one, the mindset, and the third is we should have a constant collaboration so that we can go to the next step and create a lot of employment opportunities. I think there's a myth saying that if there's a tech or AI, Gen AI coming in, a lot of jobs may be lost. Maybe the automation piece, but it can also create a lot of other employment opportunities. I think we'll have to look at that aspect rather than just the gray areas out there. That's my thought on it.
Thanks, Preeti. I think this academic interface program run by majority of the big organizations is creating a change that we want. Because if you look at the large part of this skilled workforce, graduates that's come into play, 85% of them are not employable. Yeah. Now, how do industry ensure that we move it from 15 to 17, 17 to 20, 20 to 25? And I see a lot of companies, including Indian IT companies, has taken a stride in this direction. And there is a need for both academia and industry to work together to create curricula which is suited for the future work requirement rather than keep churning out what we were doing historically. And do it with a 21st century mindset, because I see in some ecosystem, still we try to bring in 21st century practices and programs with 20th century mindset. And that is something which is not going to work. So I'll request Megha, who's a veteran in fintech, to share her thoughts about fintech industry or any other industry that you deal with.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. And I thought, to understand how the skill reskilling is evolving, I thought I'll do a quick exercise with not just my fellow panel members, but all of you sitting in the audience. So I would request each one of you to close your eyes. And I would request my panel members to also do that. Just close your eyes, listen to my instructions. I would want each one of you to go back into the memory lane and think yourself as 5-year-old. See what you experience around you. How are your parents coming around you? What's the telephone that they're using? What's the electricity? Or there is a television that's working around. A little fast forward, now you are 12 years old. Your father has come from its work. What's the vehicle that your father is using? Or your mother? Think about what are the instruments that you have at home. They're moving a little ahead, and now you're 25 years old. You're going to your college or your workplace. How are you traveling to your workplace today? And now I'm fast forwarding to today. Imagine the handset that you use today, or the vehicle that you drove in the morning. And we're going to quickly move 15 years ahead from where we are. Imagine what mode of transportation that you would be using 15 years from now. what gadget you would have to communicate with each other, or what specs that you would be using at that point in time. I would like you to come back to reality, open your eyes slowly, and I would want to ask, did you see the transformation in the last 30 to 40 years from where you started as a childhood, where you would had those dial phones that you would use, to somebody, using cycles, to today, 10, 15 years ago, having your own car was a thing, to today it's completely Uber or Blue Smart in Delhi. And I can't imagine the future. Samsung talks about that this handset is no more going to be in next 10 years. That's a prediction that Samsung has made. Most of your communicative devices would be on your chip on the hand. And that's the technology that they talk about. So imagine if we have experienced this and we are transforming ourselves with the upcoming technology that's coming in. I think that's the real skill gap that we have today. Because that's how fast the technology innovations are happening. That's how fast we move from learning to dial from a phone to use a keypad to now using touch screens to I don't know what technology of a SIM card that we're going to get into. And I think that's the challenge that we have. Our education to upskilling ourselves has become so fast that every time we even talk about this topic, there's something new innovation that's already happening somewhere across the globe. And we have to adopt and, move to that value change to say, oh my God, like ChatGPT. How many of us were equipped to manage office policies? Now you would say every newbie will come in and say, oh, I can create it in ChatGPT in 30 seconds. How do you control it from safety security policy? We never thought about it as an HR, but we're now getting into it. ChatGPT now even offers solution for corporates so that the data is safe and secure. So I leave it there, Raj, for you.
Thank you, Megha, for this immersive experience. And, this is compressed what one generation used to learn from another one. And now, so whatever learning used to happen in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, it has been compressed, and now it has become Google or YouTube. So when we look at generation born after 2000, I think it's altogether different. And it is visible in our society also. And they have such a great inquisitive mind. We used to think 10 times before asking why, when our parents would ask us anything. But today you need to answer why. And after 13, I find kids saying that you have to respect my privacy. So things has changed not only for industry, in society also. So it's a wonderful immersive learning experience, looking at 5 years, 12 years, 25 years and getting into the future. So thank you, Megha, for that. Pradyumna, your thoughts?
Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon. I think I go to many forums to speak. This is the most august audience I can say, because people from education, you are the nation builder. You are the person, you are the fraternity who is responsible for building talent in the country. You are the fraternity which is building skill in this country. So nice to be here. My name is Pradyumna Pandey. Let me introduce myself. I do it whenever I get a chance to do. I started my career 33 years back. I worked for a cement company for 18 years with ACC Cement. Then I moved to Mavana Sugars. I was heading HR for Mavana Sugars. And 2014, I moved to JK Tyre as head of HR. So normally I introduce myself that I am solid with cement, sweet with sugar, rolled with JK Tyre for 6 years. This is how I introduce myself. And people ask me how you take your journey forward. I say after running 6 years with JK Tyre, I got health in my kitty. I was head HR for Torrent Pharma. I was CHRO for Mother Dairy. And in my last move, people asked me how you define it. I said 32 साल काम करने के बाद हीरो बनना बनता था. So I am now with Hero MotoCorp as manufacturing HR head. Now, a very important point. I think we are talking about upskilling and reskilling. What's the reason? why we are sitting here and discussing with you as a fraternity, as educational institutions, that about skilling and upskilling. Definitely we feel that there is a skill gap. That is the point which comes, that if there is a skill gap, then only we are here to discuss it. And there comes the role of the entire educational institutions and also the role of corporates to fill that particular gap. How to fill that, what is that we can do, that becomes important. I think the first point, we need to accept that the gap starts from the origin itself. And we need to take responsibility of that. When we go to educational institution for hiring talent, we feel that the talent is not industry ready. And what is that which will make those students industry ready is not only your responsibility, it's our responsibility. We as two institutions need to collaborate with each other. We need to talk about what is the gap. We need to talk about what that competencies are required in this new era, new business environment. Until unless we and these two fraternity will not discuss with each other, we will not able to fill the gap. First is to identify that what exactly is required. Then definitely the business environment is changing so fast, the technology is moving so fast in that every day the skill requirement is changing. And that's the reason we say that we need to skill, we need to upskill, we need to reskill. Your artificial intelligence, your data analytics, everything is moving so fast. You can't even imagine. And if you, as an educational institution, we are not ready to cater to that requirement, I think we will, as country, as industry, we will suffer for it. Second comes, it's not only your responsibility, it's our responsibility also. When people are with us, we need to skill and upskill regularly. I share my example. I was with Mother Dairy as CHRO. When Corona came, we saw that there was a skill gap. We were not having those talent with us. There was crunch of technical manpower. And that was the time when we understood that this is what is required, that the continuous learning culture is important. We started doing that because all FMCG companies have done that. The people, those who are working on operation, on production lines, we trained them into maintenance. Those people who are working in maintenance, we trained them to work on production lines. I think that is where we skill and upskill people. Now, it's not only good for industry, it is good for the people, those who are learning those skills. It brings that confidence in them that if this job is not available, I will be ready for another job. And that is what brings that responsibility of industry on leaders and management like us, saying that we need to accept that this is something which is required. The continuous improvement, continuous learning, how continuous learning will come until unless you create an environment of innovation and creativity in the organization. And there I always talk to leaders saying that you need to accept the challenges. You need to allow people to speak their mind. You need to involve people into big picture so that they can create that innovation and creativity in the organization. And that brings that upskilling, that brings the new way of learning skills. I think this is my initial thoughts. It's very important. Again, I will say this collaboration of academia and corporate, it's the most important thing when we talk about skilling, upskilling, and filling the skill gap. So I will stop here now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pradyumna. I'll request my panelists, if you have any observation, comments, to share on any topic before I open it up for question and answers.
I'd like to share.
So, yeah, just a quick one. I mean, I've been sitting here and listening to my esteemed colleagues. So, we heard about 3 sectoral examples. And then we also heard Dr. Pandey in terms of where is the origin of the gap. So my mind went to, I mean, yes, we're discussing the reskilling, upskilling in different sectors, and we're talking about the way things are now. So my mind went to what ought to be the approach. What can be a foundational model which is agnostic of sector, so that we undertake reskilling and upskilling for a future-ready workforce. So I would stress on 3 I's, and I'll go quickly. The 3 I's to me are, the first one is, the model needs to be integrated. Integration between education and life skills. So we all talk about KSA, knowledge, skills, attitude. Yes, that importance will never go away, but having KSA and then having the ability to harness your thoughts, present them, articulate them, that is what will actually make you a successful candidate in the job market. So that's what I mean by integration. Education, literacy, along with soft skills. The second is involvement. Dr. Pandey talked about the collaboration required between academia and corporate. I would say where skilling and upskilling, it has to be more foundational than that. Involvement of the local communities in what skills should be taken up. Small example, I work for a company which has the largest manufacturing operation by value in the state of Punjab. We have a lot of resources, but we're not skilling people in AI and automation through our programs. We are actually promoting amongst the rural youth of Punjab, we are promoting skills, and we are drivers of driving commercial vehicles, warehouse management. Because the state of Punjab doesn't have that much of an industry, but it has a lot of food grain production. So who's going to get it to the place, who's going to store it, who's going to warehouse it? So that's what I mean by involvement of what the local community needs. The third I is inclusive, because career paths now are almost going to be like personalized Google Maps. Some of us here on the stage worked for 30 years or more. That's the lifer model. You choose one career and you may change companies, but that's basically what you stick to. But when you look at the future workplace and the future workforce, it's going to be an ever-changing pathway. So inclusion in terms of whatever programs you put forward for reskilling, inclusion here would mean it's going to be different and personalized for everybody. People will choose. What do I want to engage with? And I may change paths over the space of next 30, 40 years. So that's why it needs to be different and thereby differentiated and thereby inclusive. Thank you.
Said it beautifully. Thank you. Mussarat, over to you.
Yeah. So, carrying on this, in this context, let me also share some practical example of the skilling and reskilling and all. Since I worked in Maruti, and I remember in the year 2010 or 11, we had reached maybe 1 million annual production. And then we were talking about reaching 2 million, 3 million and 5 million. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that? We need capacities, we need people, we need skills, and then disruption happening in the industry. So that time, Maruti, which believed in building talent rather than buying talent, because hiring is through the entry level. So one big decision was taken because we were the market leader by far. And what got us here will not take us there. So by that time, almost 25 companies were competing with us. To keep us ahead in the, the market, it was decided that skilling, people capability building will be the most important thing if Maruti wants to remain the market leader. And to do that, it was decided that we'll set up a corporate skill university. And I was privileged to be part of that in terms of setting up that academy, starting with the finishing school, which is like setting up the whole plant as a training center. Then we set up robotic centers, we set up center of excellence, we set up leadership schools, we set up the, the Japanese kind of training school, we set up MACE, Maruti Center for Excellence, which works with the vendor companies. So all this infrastructure and capability building was created, but just let me give you one or two examples. Cars were sold there was no special course in India. Anybody can come and become a dealer sale consultant. You are a commerce graduate, you are a non-graduate, anybody will learn on the job and start selling a car. But car is a very specialized product. So diploma holders would also come and sell. So what has happened is that we decided that there is a skill gap. There is no specialized course which teaches anybody on how to sell a car. So we partnered with the skill universities and ASDC and decided to create a automobile sales course, which is a 3-year diploma, which is earn while you learn kind of a thing. So these kind of courses in partnership with universities we started, where these people are doing 1-year course and then 2-year stint at dealership and classroom both. Similar was with ITIs. For example, people who are coming into shop floor are not geared up. So we have partnered with hundreds of ITIs in terms of upgrading their facilities, their centers, and also running our own ITIs, where these people, students, are on the concept of earn while you learn. So they do classes 4 days a week, and also they work in the shop floor. And then vice versa, what happens is that every quarter their exams are there, and once they pass out, then they become apprentice, then they join the company also. So these kind of efforts in these areas of skilling, because the ITIs or the diploma institutes are not geared up to meet the industry 4.0 requirement. So industries like Tata or Hero Motor Corp or many other in the automotive industries have partnered. But now we are partnering a lot with the skill universities, but we can't run universities. We can't run MBA colleges. But what we do in our corporate academy is that we run our own leadership school, our own competency building schools. So these are something which, as an industry, I wanted to share that the industry academia collaboration, as Dr. Pandey was talking about, is what we are doing, and that is the order, because in the next 10 years or next 20 years, you never know what all is going to happen. So industries are now coming in a very, very big way, investing in these areas so that you have the right kind of manpower at the right time. So that is what I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think I should open it up for questions. We can take 2-3 questions. If someone could share the mic.
So, good afternoon, everyone. So, sir, nicely, all the panel members, they have discussed about the skilling and upskilling. I'm Dr. Ajay Kumar, Director at Indraprastha Engineering College, and I'm in the education since last 26 years. Sir, we, from the last 3-4 years, we are talking about the skilling and upskilling. But I've just realized the students and the other the members, they actually are missing about the basic fundamental knowledge. Does it impact to the actual learning? Because one day in one exhibitions, the students, they were flying the drone, and I asked the fundamental question to the students and the exhibitors, what is the Bernoulli's theorems? They could not reply what is the Bernoulli's theorem, because if you don't know the fundamentals, so how can you fly the drone? So that is the one part of the question. And the another part, because there are so many edtech companies, every day they say, okay, I'm very good in skilling, upskilling, these are the different courses, AI, machine learning, all these courses. But the actual learners, they are confused. Because from where they have to take the good things, that is the another points. So I think what I have realized, instead of saying the skilling and upskilling, these fundamentals or these different technology, in many universities or many the institutions, they have started the specific the courses they have started. Like this, such type of courses must be started from the institutions. So that is the one major concern. So what is your view? Does it impact to the actual learning?
I can take that.
No, I can also take it up. I'll just take it up. See, what you are trying to say, let me tell you, the institutions, right from schools, if you look at European model or American model or go to Singapore, how they bring up their children. So their way of building up people is very, very different. So just having fundamentals will not help. And that is why when somebody joins an organization, they are not job ready. Honestly speaking, they have good quality of mind. So all organizations deploy a principle called 70-20-10 principles, right? So what we believe is that 70% of the learning of the people or development happens on the job. So until unless you do the job, you will not learn. 10% is only classroom, and when people come to the organization, it is only 10% that they bring in. 90%, it is the organization which is actually going to teach them. And then there are, courses, certifications, blah, 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 whatever you do. But the role of education institution is to at least have the fundamentals right. Unfortunately, the fundamentals are not right. That's the biggest problem, and that's why you keep on seeing hundreds of skill reports, not only of India and outside. The problem is that there is a huge skill gap. The students coming out are not employable. Honestly, let me tell you, and companies are spending 90% of their time only on making them job ready. So which is a big challenge. Actually, it should be 50-50. 50% they should be ready, 50% is what we are going to teach them. But that is the gap of another 40% which is already there, which is not there if you go to Australia, go to US or Europe. Their education model is different. The students are taught very, very differently so that they are job ready. Their focus is more on skilling people rather than education in terms of just, having, passing the course. Passing the course doesn't make any sense, let me tell you honestly. So our education model has to go for a big change actually. Honestly speaking, in the long run, it will be a big challenge. And world is becoming global. Now, talent from outside of India are coming and working in India. So what will happen to our talent? Our good talent are going to US. There is an exodus of talent, and the kind of talent we want is not available in India. So you see how many expats are working in India today. Our jobs they are taking because of the faulty education system. So that's what I have to add, but please.
These days, many takers, they have taken 70 certificates on AI and the 30 certificates from online from various tech companies. But even though they don't know anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So any other question, please?
Thank you.
And make it short. Make your question very crisp.
Okay. Good day. My name is Razia Sardinia. I am the TPO of Padri Kosasavam College of Engineering, Goa. My question is, how do big companies assess the potential of a college for academic collaboration? Because we've observed that sometimes there is talent, but small states, small universities can miss out.
Okay. I can go on how do we do in Airtel, right? I think the biggest challenge that we are facing as an industry today is, while this is a little different thought that we've been talking about, I think the younger talent has a lot of potential. They're very eager. They want to grow very, very fast, right? In the next 1 year and in 5 years together, total experience, they may want to become a VP. So I think because they see a potential in themselves, they are on a very, very fast track. But when we look at them as employers, we definitely need a little stability. We definitely need them to learn more what we need rather than what they have in their minds. When we assess a university or any other college for a potential collaboration, all we see is, let's say if I were to set up a skill center in Orissa, while I'll choose Orissa as a state, right? The trend for our organization shows whenever we've taken people from few states, the longevity of those people staying, picking up the skills and delivering back to the organization is quite high, first. The second is the infrastructure that the government can provide for helping us set up a skill center there. So that's the second big one. The third one is, how does the collaboration finally work out? Because this is a mutual collaboration between the university and the organization. It's very easy to put in some money and set up a skill center, but then it has to go on for a number of years. So I think those are three big factors for us to finally assess. Financials I'm not getting into because, of course, I think when you raise your hands, there is a good perspective around it. So I think those are the three key features, until I've missed something which others can add on to it.
No, that's fine. I think we have paucity of time, so we'll take one more question and wrap it up.
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Anu Singhal, TPO of Atharva College of Engineering. My question is, sir, that we are sending the resume to the HRs. Nowadays, application tracking system is going on. What are the major things you are looking in the resume while doing the shortlisting?
Megha, will you take it up? Resume, you can add.
Sure.
Because this problem we are facing a lot nowadays.
So you're talking about people who are joining from campus, or you're talking about in general experience folks? Campus. So, so we all know as an HR that campus have their own format that you give to the students, and technically if you have 100 people in a batch, 90% of the students will technically have the same resumes. So at least when I go to corporate, I don't look at the resume perspective so much, because I do understand they are starting from a campus, so they're technically at a level playing field similar, unless and until some candidates, and I always, whenever I go to any of the campus, I guide students to talk about the projects they've done, talk about any initiative that they have run, or, you know, any kind of program or, you know, inter-collaboration activity they've participated in, talk about those also as a skill set in their resumes. But I think corporates do understand that, you know, resume would be pretty much similar when we go to corporates. So I don't think so it happens from so much of the resume standpoint, but more around when we meet the candidates, whatever the process is, whether it's a, you know, group discussion, or it's a case study, or it's an interview process, or it's a, you know, personality assessment, or any kind of other assessments that the organization take. I think most of the shortlisting happens from there more than just the resume, especially if it's a non-experienced, you know, candidates. Of course, if it's an experienced one, then skill set where we hiring and the candidate interested in that skill set becomes the primary factor to select a resume.
Let me add, I think the question you asked, resume gives only us a very broad view of what the candidate is. So definitely we need to create some criteria where we say that that's the percentage in his school days, and then final where he's passing out from the institution. So that becomes the base. But yes, when we select those candidates, definitely that academic part goes away, because we as corporate first look at the intellectual ability, intellectual maturity of the student, that how he has been prepared, what is his functional knowledge, what is subject knowledge he has gathered into 2 years of his course. That is one. That intellectual maturity becomes very important for us. And that's why when I go and talk to students, I always talk to them saying that please read as much as you can, because readers are leaders and leaders are leaders. This is what I communicate to them. So reading and putting efforts while his academic years, I think that brings the intellectual maturity. But important for us when we bring people into our team is their social maturity. That becomes important. How they will fit into the team, how they will work, how their empathy part, how they will react to working in a team, how they will, the collaboration part of becomes important for us, how they will collaborate. So that social maturity also becomes important for us, that how they respect others. Because in an organization, respecting others is the most important point, which we always talk about to the team members, that respect others, delivering on promises becomes important. So social maturity is second, and third, definitely the emotional maturity. His attitude becomes important for us, his body language, his confidence, all those things, social maturity, intellectual maturity, and emotional maturity. I think these things we normally try to observe when we are interacting with students. But from resume, definitely it is only a mathematics which goes and does that. Now, artificial intelligence is the AI is there, which automatically picks up that who are the students who will be appearing into the second round. Thank you.
I think we will wrap it up here, and some of us would be around. If you have any more questions, we can take it offline. Thank you. Thank you so much for being such a great audience. Thank you.
Thanks all members, thanks to all the audience over here. Because of short of time, we are not able to take much questions, but people will be available to you offline. If you have any other things, you can discuss, but don't leave the hall now. Now we are going for felicitation because we have continuous sessions for today. Though it will become a bit of hectic, not hectic exactly because lots of learning will come for us, but it will be, the schedule will be a bit of tight. And we have invited many eminent speakers for today. So my sincere request to all of you, please be here so that we will be able to listen them. So now we will go for the formal felicitation to all the members of the esteemed panel. So please.
Now I'd like to request Satya sir to felicitate Mussarat Hussain, Head Human Resources, Suzuki and R&D Center India Private Limited. Please sir. Now I'd like to request Satya sir to felicitate Gopalji Mehrotra, Head of HR HPCL Metal Energy Limited. Next, I would like to ask Satya sir to felicitate Dr. Pradyumna Pandey, Manufacturing HR Head, Hero Motocorp. Next, I would like to ask sir to felicitate Preeti Jain, Vice President HR AIRTEL. Next, I would like to ask Satya sir to felicitate Megha Gupta, Head of Human Resources, C2FO. Next, I would like to ask sir to felicitate Raj Gupta, General Manager, Human Resources, Tata Consultancy Services. Thank you, panel.